The final film of MCU Phase 5, Thunderbolts, has dropped in theaters. That means it's time to talk spoilers. Now, if you've ever wondered how much hairspray I use in my videos, I can take this helmet on and off, and my hair is unaffected because there's such an excessively large amount of hairspray holding my hair in place. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share all of your spoiler-packed thoughts on Thunderbolts, the asterisks, the post-credit scene, the stars of the movie, SENTRY, whatever you want to talk about, that character that dies very early in the film. Hey, we're in a spoiler review. The fact that Taskmaster is on all the posters but only has one line of dialogue and about 30 seconds of screen time. Whatever you want to talk about it down below. No need for a spoiler warning. That's in the title, the thumbnail, and I've already said it like 30 times in this video. Also, this will be a very long video because I talk movies way too much. That's my brand, and a spoiler review is kind of where I do that the most. But you can skip ahead to whatever you want to hear me talk about. Right down there, the post-credit scene, the asterisks, the death, whichever thing, it's right down there. Let's get started. First thing to talk about, my thoughts on the movie after having seen it a second time, as well as overall reactions to the film. Now, in the case of this film, I had the advantage of seeing the movie 2 times before I posted my non-spoiler review for the film. So generally speaking, when I do these spoiler reviews, that's when I've seen it a second time. But they did a fan screening a week before the press screening. I was able to get tickets to it, had to wait in line for 4 hours to get in, which is kind of fun because some fans showed up. I got to meet them, talk with them beforehand, and then I was able to see the movie a second time after thinking about it, processing it for a week, watch it a second time. And, you know, Marvel movies are generally designed to be big, fun blockbusters, obviously, even this one about depression. But so you leave the theater kind of on a big high, it's exciting, and sometimes a couple days later that can wear off, or there can be risks taken with the movie that you're not sure how you feel about it. In case of this movie, it has a surrealist third act, and they resolve it by hugging it out, bro. And so how will I feel about that a week later? In the case of this movie, I had the advantage of watching it a second time a week later, and then even today, having a few more days to process it, see more reactions, and you kind of see, like, sometimes people will watch the movie and they'll say why they didn't like it, and you go, oh yeah, and it puts an idea in your head that you can't get out. And so, very luckily with this movie, I've had a lot of time to process it, and it's a film that I just really dig. Like, I just think it worked. And it really does feel like the MCU kind of getting back to what movies used to feel like. That they're interconnected, but also in a sense where it feels like they kind of stand alone. And that their formula, the calibration just felt really off for the last several years, where you'd have projects that felt completely isolated and have nothing to do with anything. Or you would have something like The Marvels, Doctor Strange 2, where it felt like you had to do a bunch of homework or you would have no idea what's going on in the film. In the case of this movie, it is following up a whole bunch of different projects. These characters were all introduced in something else. But the way the movie's designed, you can just watch it without having done your homework and the movie will fill you in. It stands on its own. And it feels like a cohesive film. It feels like a cohesive film without gimmicks, where Deadpool and Wolverine and Spider-Man No Way Home feel like cohesive films, but there's the multiverse gimmick to it. And I love those movies. And I don't mean to in any way take away the excitement or suggest I didn't have a blast with them. Both of them were in my top 10 for the years that they came out because they were great fan experiences. But when you're doing multiverse, there is a little trick there. There is something that taps into that nostalgia in a unique way. That's a gimmick. It's a trick to enhance the experience. Or you have a lot of movies like Captain America Brave New World that have things in them that I like, but it feels very patchwork. There's been a lot of these patchwork movies where we both know from reports that they were dramatically reworked and reshot. Same with the Marvels. But also you watch it and there's a choppiness. And you watch Thunderbolts and it's a cohesive movie that you're like, yes, this is a good movie. This is well made. You took a bunch of characters that are nobody's favorite and you made them really fun and likable and had a great group dynamic. and made that what made that the theme, the idea of the movie. And it, as much as parts of it can feel like familiar MCU stuff, also does like a surrealist third act that we've never done that before with an MCU film. And in certain ways, kind of what it did in that third act in the Void world, it kind of little ways made me be like, man, I wish that there'd been a bit more of this in Multiverse of Madness. Doing it kind of like this kind of trickery with the flipping through different frames and different little, like there's something really fun you could have done with Multiverse of Madness. And that sort of thing that makes you go, oh, this is a better way of doing things that they've done before. And it gave us a target. Now we know who the Avengers are. We'll talk about that later. We know kind of how Fantastic Four will tie in. We'll talk about that later. But just all those things were really positive. Beyond that, the overall reaction to it has been overwhelmingly, extraordinarily positive. Now, I was a little bit irritated when the first Rotten Tomatoes score came out. Some of these aggregators discussing film in particular took the very first number that dropped, which was 95%. And they went, 95%, second highest Rotten Tomatoes score ever for a Marvel movie. And that was retweeted over 10,000 times and had over 5 million impressions. The thing is, it was only true for 4 minutes. Like, I saw that tweet 4 minutes after it came out, checked Rotten Tomatoes, and it had dropped to 91%, which would be like the 10th highest Rotten Tomatoes score. And then now it dropped to 88, and I think maybe it's back up to 90. But it's a very good Rotten Tomatoes score. It's a great score. And indication things are heading in the right direction. The score is about double Captain America Brave New World's Rotten Tomatoes score. So twice as many critics by percentage recommended this film versus Captain America Brave New World. Great sign. But I hate it when these aggregators and these engagement farm accounts post something that's not really true. Second highest Rotten Tomatoes score. It was true for 4 minutes while scores were still being counted. You have to understand, Rotten Tomatoes, it's an aggregator and people are submitting their scores that whole first hour. And so it went from having 0 scores at the beginning of an hour to having about 80 scores by the end of the hour. That literally happened. They were just being processed and the score kept changing. And instead of waiting for it to settle to make their post, they said it was the second highest, which was never really true. The numbers said it, but that's because they were processing. The number changed immediately. And then that 91% I saw, it changed immediately to 92%. It was doing this. Like, except because it was in such flux because reviews were just coming in like this and being processed. I hate that crap. It was never actually the second highest Rotten Tomatoes score. That's a dishonest thing to spread to people. But it has a great score. And anecdotally, just looking at the reactions that I've seen on the internet, the vast majority of people are like, MCU's back, it was solid, really enjoyed it. There's a handful of people that still don't like it. I've seen the negative reactions and MCU is, I'm done to the MCU, it's another garbage movie. I've seen those. Overwhelming number are saying one of the best since Endgame. Pretty common reaction to the film. And at the theater I was at, I asked the people coming out of the theater, the fan screening I was at, and they were overwhelmingly positive about the film. So we just got out of a fan screening of Thunderbolts. What'd you think about it?
I thought it was pretty good. Pretty back to formula for Marvel.
Absolutely loved it.
Oh, this is really, really good. I was so happy that we finally got a good, proper MCU movie, even though we have some wacky MCU movies lately. But this is a well-written, very stylized.
I think this is the first Marvel movie in a long time that I felt very, very strongly about in a positive way.
The comedy, it really flowed really well.
And one thing I love about it is that when it picks up, it picks up. And it just goes. Either you're laughing or you're action. Laughing or action is one of the two.
It has a lot of fun into it, but at the same time, they were able to explore a lot of the characters, which that's something I did not expect seeing from the Thunderbolts.
You reintroduce the characters who already exist, so it's not just throwing a bunch of new characters at you. And I like that because you get to explore more of those characters, but also see how they are impacted by the overarching MCU, as well as how they're going to fit in.
And all the kind of themes that they were tackling in the movie, especially like, mental health.
The storyline is very relatable if you really pay attention to what the plot is and what people go through in life is kind of deals with. So
It was like you're watching a Marvel movie that's actually like about something. It's like
Yes.
it's really character based.
very character based.
It just felt like it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like, you clearly see how this movie will impact the rest of the MCU going forward.
And I know one thing I took from this movie: lovable losers.
I think it would fall up there. I think it kind of reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
It was an awesome movie. I mean, this blows Captain America: Brave New World out of the water.
If you like let down by Brave New World, don't worry. Thunderbolts got you back. They're hit and miss. This is a hit, and I hope you all enjoyed this movie.
It'll be a fun time. I guarantee people are gonna love it.
I loved it. I can't recommend this movie enough.
Let's start walking through the movie with Yelena and depression. So the movie kicks off with Yelena looking depressed, standing on the edge or sitting on the edge of the second tallest building in the world. And it's one of those sequences that I'm glad that if you look up the behind the scenes stuff, as you really did that. They really got Florence Pugh, or Florence Pugh was very excited to sit on the edge of the second tallest building in the world, musing about lack of purpose in life via voiceover, and then steps off the building. And that kind of sets the stage for the film of a movie that on two different things that like a lot of us really enjoyed about the film. It's very overtly about mental health, depression. It's about something. It's not just a roller coaster ride. Like, it's very clear we're doing something that's very character based. Like, we want you to care about the journey that they're on, their internal struggle. And they pick very relatable stuff. They're doing kind of broad strokes mental health, whether that's depression, lack of purpose, regret, actual, mental disorders. Like, it touches on every single one of them in these broad strokes of the same idea that's kind of true of all of them, is that we all need a community of people around us. We start off our movie, we make it clear, this is about the characters and this is about mental health. And our lead character is struggling on a lot of these different levels. She feels very alone. And we're doing a movie where we're going to put Florence Pugh, one of the top, maybe the top actress, one of the top actresses of her generation, doing a Tom Cruise on the second tallest building in the world. And we're doing stunts. We're going practical. And that sticks through, that both of these things stick throughout the entire film. Even when you get into the surrealist third act, they did as much practical as they could, where they actually had Florence hopping through poles and stuff and walls and stuff to go into the next room, where it's doing trippy dream stuff, but they did practical. And so it just has a tangibility to it. So it's relatable because of the characters, and it's tangible because it's practical. And it just feels like we're taking the MCU away from just entirely flashy characters and green screens and CGI, and we're bringing it back down to our world. Loved that. That says how much I've been like, as sometimes you need a big CGI army. CGI is not the enemy. But also, it's very easy to do too much CGI. And their approach on this movie, I think that they nailed it. We're throwing Florence off of a building, we're flipping a car over, we're building practical sets, and therefore you enhance everything with some CGI and it becomes seamless. Yes, thank you. And you made me care about the characters. It's a movie where the biggest complaint since they announced, or the last 2 years, has been, I don't care about these characters. I don't care about these characters. Why do I want to see a movie about these characters? And you watch the movie, and maybe that will be a marketing hurdle. That there's people that I just don't care about US Agent. I just don't care about Yelena. I didn't like the project they were in. I don't care. That's a marketing hurdle. But the people that watch the movie go, oh, I love these characters. It's very much the Earthbound Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's take a bunch of characters that people don't care about and make them our new lovable reject family. And I'm all for that. Like most comparisons have been Suicide Squad. And then I think when you watch it, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, both James Gunn things that he worked on. But it doesn't feel like a James Gunn movie at all. It's just that general idea of found family, rejects become the heroes, as well as the bad guys get recruited for a team, sort of. I don't think those are negatives. I think those are positives with the film. Other thing to kind of talk about in here is we're following Yelena as our lead character. Some people had big issues with that, and Bucky should be the star. I know that Bucky's the most established, but Bucky by his nature is not as flashy or interesting of a character in certain ways, because his personality's not designed to be that. He's not designed to kind of be in your face like that. And we've also already played out kind of his arc, because he's been with us for 15 years, and we've done a lot of movies with him, so we've had a full arc about him. So you put someone there that there's more of an arc for him to be on, and you use Bucky as the guy that's already done this. You've got a team of people that are screw-ups. Bucky shows up in the middle and joins. We'll talk about this a little bit, but as we're talking about kind of the team and the makeup. He joins in a little bit later and becomes basically the mentor. Like, as soon as he shows up, everyone's like, Bucky's so cool. And it's like celebrating him because he's the guy that fulfilled the journey. He's done the redemptive arc already that they are on. And then he shows up and he doesn't trust them at first, realizes they're the ones he has to work with. And he gives them the speech. He's the leader. Our lead character is her. We're following her. She's our point of view for the story, but for the team, Bucky pretty quickly is the leader of the team. But we want the character we're following to have a really defined arc. And then you go with Yelena as a character that's not as cartoonish as Red Guardian, a character that has a little bit more personality than Ghost. John Walker, by his inherent nature, has to be a douchebag and a jerk. And so you try to pick who's the person that we follow that has a very lead character personality that can be funny, can be charming. Of them, the most balanced character is Yelena. In one of the issues I had with the movie Black Widow is that Yelena outshined Natasha. She's just a more fun character while still having kind of that tragic, she can carry that weight while being charming and funny and pulling off the action. So I think that a lot of that, why is Yelena the lead? Well, big, gigantic rising star and a character that is well-rounded. It makes sense to me. And in the context of the movie, having seen it, I think it played great. Other little things to talk about in there, we do our little Red Guardian meetup, kind of establishing that since Natasha died, that they both really care about each other, but they haven't figured out how to have the proper father-daughter dynamic and what exactly that means. Red Guardian is very much our overt comic relief character, and I love David Harbour as just this, the guy that loves the glory and loves the marketing opportunities. He has a good heart, but he also is very stupid and clueless, and there's just this naive energy and bravado about him that just energizes whatever sequence he is in. But he pretty quickly established they're all alone. They're all kind of lost, and we need to find a path. Barnes and the Hearings and Valentina de Fontaine. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce that because I know she would correct me, especially if I left out the D. I actually have pretty big issues with Bucky being a congressman, somewhat because even last year I did a hot takes video debating whether Bucky should have been given the shield. And my argument for why Bucky shouldn't have been given the shield was that he is his body, not his consciousness, not his choices, but his body, his face was a terrorist for decades. And to the public, if you're going to be the symbol of America, you need some time to publicly have a distinct redemptive arc if you're going to be the symbol of America. And to us as an audience, we've seen that, but they haven't really done the story that presents him as publicly doing that. That was my argument. I think it's a good argument until they make him a congressman and you go, okay, that argument's nonsense. If in the world he can be elected and to the public, everyone's totally cool, forgiven, no issues of, hey, you killed Tony's parents, hey, you killed JFK. If you're just going to ignore all of that And he's now, like, we can elect him as a politician. I guess you could argue that politicians are known for being scummy and Captain America's supposed to not be scummy. We can debate and discuss all of that. But I feel like you needed more of a redemptive arc. Something that to the public to make him Captain America, and then just ignored that. No, he's a congressman. Okay, that's weird. I think there's a logical step that's kind of missing. And if you're going to make him a congressman, why wouldn't Steve have given him the shield? And I literally never had an issue. Like, the first time I ever had an issue with it in my mind was this in Brave New World when he's like, I'm a congressman. Like, okay, well, the whole logic there kind of disappears pretty quickly. You are Steve's best friend. You do have that timelessness that he has, and you got the super soldier serum. But anyway, so you have this whole kind of plot line about the government investigating the stuff, the shady stuff going on. And the story here is pretty straightforward, and I'll kind of talk about that in just a second. But they find a way to have, like, different perspectives on it. The government, and Bucky kind of represents the government investigating what clearly is some shady business. Then we have Valentina's perspective on it as the one running the shady business, and her, very much the Amanda Waller of this, and very different version of it, but an Amanda Waller type character. And then, of course, our fixers that are sent on the mission. So you get the Bucky's perspective. And I had some people ask, like, is Bucky sidelined for Yelena? It's like, no, Bucky's not sidelined for Yelena. Yelena's mostly our point of view character, but Bucky gives the perspective of the government, and Bucky is not one of them. He's not a government fixer. He's not a reject anymore. He hasn't been an outcast in that same sense since, Infinity War. And so he has a different perspective coming into the story, and I think that takes the story that's straightforward and just gives it flavor by giving us perspectives on it. That's where the texture for the film comes, not from having a ton of locations and plot lines and subplots everywhere. No, straightforward plot, multiple perspectives on it, and depth of character. Then we've got our cleanup mission and exposition. So we learn that all of or most of these characters are fixers for Valentina, and we'd seen them being recruited many years before, and in their projects back in Phase 4 3 years ago. So finally, all of them are sent to this one location to kill each other and then to be incinerated, to destroy all of the evidence of everything they've been up to. So we get our fight with everybody there, and the thing happens that many of us were predicting. Taskmaster dies immediately. They lied in the trailers. In several different trailers, they include Taskmaster in scenes that Taskmaster is not in. Taskmaster is seen in a trailer in the former Avengers Tower and some other things, like with a group standing there, they would CGI Taskmaster into it, or maybe they just had Olga on set, like, hey, run over there in costume, and then they just shoot the version for the trailer to deceive audiences. But like, Taskmaster is like credited highly in the credits on all the posters. When they did the world premiere and they walked out the Thunderbolts, Taskmaster Olga walks out on stage. That has got to be weird. Like, you have one line of dialogue. You see her face once. She might not have ever been on set, because why would she be on set? You just shoot her one line on a green screen or whatever, and you CGI her, because it's just like this. It's just the Taskmaster says her one line, "You're my target." That's it. Why would you even need to put her on set to do that? It's a pretty easy thing to do with CGI these days. And she's everywhere. And did the marketing trickery work? No, of course not, because people aren't stupid. If you see Taskmaster in action in just one scene, in one location, in one room, and then standstill group shots later on, but no action shots in any other locations, we can piece that together pretty quickly. What's going on here? So poor Taskmaster died very quickly. Given it was a bad version of Taskmaster, I don't really care. Unfortunately, we did have this very weird version of Taskmaster that was more of a plot device than the actual Taskmaster. Taskmaster as this character that can learn anyone's style and everything, that's a great character that can be used in a bunch of interesting different ways. And killing Taskmaster off so quickly, it feels like you wasted the potential of what you could have done here. But I imagine they just kind of wanted to set the stakes that they're expendable. They don't even really care too much. We killed someone that like would have been on our team. Oh well, that like no one is particularly concerned about it, other than like, should you steal off the body of a dead person? Should you do that? That's like the depth of the concern. And several of them are like, it's just dead anyway. Let's take stuff. But also I wonder if they just didn't really have anything to do with the character, because the character just was with so little personality or anything. There's just no arc there. So who do you kill off? The one that is just a trained robot of a person is what Taskmaster has been reduced to in the MCU. So we lose Taskmaster. Oh well, I just find it really funny that they marketed the film the way that that degree of trying to lie to us about someone that you just like so quickly got rid of with one line of dialogue, but you still brought her out on stage at the world premiere. I just thought that was crazy. But, so I think what the movie does really well is we have this scene where all these fixers show up. And if you haven't seen Black Widow, you haven't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you forgot what happened in Ant-Man and the Wasp, you're watching this movie and you know enough about Yelena. That she has a sister, that she's some sort of fixer, she has a lot of regrets, she's lost, and she shows up to do this, and you can understand all of these people are pretty shady government fixers working for a very shady lady. So they're morally questionable. And then in the context of the movie, they write dialogue where they're ripping into each other. Like, you're a reject, that experiment gone wrong, that you could never work, and you kind of let us know what we need to know about them to follow the plot of the film. And this guy was Captain America for a little bit. All of a sudden, you have all the information you need. It's all right there. It's like exposition done right. They're making fun of each other. They're busting each other's balls or whatever. And also letting the audience members that don't know, and for people that do know who they are, we're making a joke out of the debate whether John Walker was wrong or not to kill a guy in the street. Like the debate on the internet, he killed an innocent man. I mean, he killed a terrorist. He didn't kill the terrorist that killed his friend, but he did kill a terrorist. And should Captain America kill someone in the street in cold blood with his shield? No. But did he kill a fully innocent person? Like, that's a debate that's been on the internet since the show aired 4 years ago. And they make that into like a joke line that tells you what you need to know. And it informs you about everything else, about like, he's very broken. That's a fallen hero. That's he went from being the reason he was picked for Captain America is because he was the most celebrated soldier in the military. Like, he was the top guy and he was doing his duty. He just wasn't the right guy to replace Steve, and it ended up kind of destroying him. So had this incredible fall from being we think you're such a great soldier that you will be our Captain America, to, oh crap, what an embarrassment. We picked the wrong guy. That guy's crazy. He killed somebody with the shield in the middle of the street in cold blood. And we get all that. We get all of it. Exposition. And like I said, that's exposition done right, and making a movie that, if you've seen everything else, it's richer, but you can just watch it on its own terms and figure out who everyone is. You know everything you need to know. There's not like gigantic weird plot points where you're like, how you'd be baffled and confused. Like, if you don't know that Yelena and Natasha are sisters, that our Black Widow is her sister, if you don't know that, this movie still works and makes sense. It's just much richer if you do. But that's doing Marvel Connected Universe right. Escape plan and a simple story. So one thing that I found really refreshing about this movie is how straightforward and linear the story is. That there's not a ton of locations. So I kind of assumed, like, yeah, we'll do our mission and then we'll leave there and something else will happen. We'll be over here. We'll be like, no. We spend 45 minutes of this film escaping. Like, we're a big chunk of the movie is escaping a building. And apparently some early versions of it, they were debating making this movie as a single location film, them escaping a building. I'm glad they didn't do that, but also I'm kind of like, maybe that would have been really cool. Like, just MCU movies you're just so used to them being so big and massive in scope and size, and you make one that feels pretty contained because we're escaping one building. then we're driving to New York City, and then we're battling at one building. The threat is over a city. It's a big threat in that regard, but it's like one location, a car trip, a second location. That's the nature of the film. And it's compared to a lot of recent MCU films, it's only just a little over 2 hours long, so it's on the shorter side, but it doesn't feel rushed because you don't have all these locations and travel and cutting between 5 different plot lines. Like, no, it's pretty linear. And at the beginning, we've got Bucky, Yelena, and Valentina's perspectives. And then when Bucky joins the Thunderbolts, then it's basically 2, and then it's 1. So it's much tighter. I liked that. And because of that, because we're all, people are like, I hear Yelena just dominates the movie. She's the star of the film and everyone else is silent. Like, well, that's a really silly way to view it because Yelena is the focus character. She's our point of view. But then she spends every scene of the movie with these people. Once things get started, she's with them. Hey, I've got a big hole right there in my shirt. I didn't even realize that. That's nice. That's battle damage. But she spends the whole movie with people right here. Before their adventure starts, she's in a scene with this guy right here. And then things get started and she's with all of them. And so you get that depth. You get little moments. We pause and, Bob touches John Walker and we get his backstory and we're pausing to hear kind of what they're up to. And yeah, I mean, Ghost doesn't get as much time in the spotlight, but I don't think she's quite as interesting of a character. And I mean, you get a lot of John Walker, you get a lot of Bob, you get a lot of Bucky. Of course, Red Guardian just dominates every scene that he's in. So like, I feel like Yelena's our character we're following. She's the one with the clearest arc, but it's all right there. Everybody got their time. And that's because we're on this linear journey, so we're escaping. So we spend 40 minutes with these people right here getting to know each other, forming a relationship, having rapport. How do they work together? How are they, like, what's really going on with John Walker with just the utter arrogance, kind of a moron, but also kind of competent, like the very strange combinations of qualities surrounding him. And you get that because we're not breaking them up, cutting up, explaining where they're at. It's all so linear. You just get a lot of time with them. Birth of SENTRY. So after Yelena spends a bunch of time with Bob, kind of protecting him, like making sure, like, I know you want to help, but I don't know what you can do. We're trained assassins. Like, hey man, why don't you stay back so you just don't get shot? And so we beat up a bunch of people and all that fun stuff. And you learn that John Walker really is a douchebag. He tries to steal the stick to try and hop up so that he survives. I mean, yeah, he tries to save everybody, but he just wanted to make sure that he survived the most. Like, get all the douchebag stuff. I have questions about whether Yelena and Ghost could actually climb up in that fashion, that high up, versus a little super soldier in there. But they make their way up. They get out, they're trying to escape and they need a distraction. And Bob wants to join in. Like there's people he cares about. Like he's found his little home in his community. So he finds the way that he can join in by running around with a machine gun and gets himself blown away. And, I don't think at any point in time this was a terribly big reveal. If you watch 0 trailers, maybe you would have been surprised to learn that Bob is not exactly as innocent and powerless as he seems. But they mow him away. He dies. Just kidding. He doesn't die. He starts flying and it's revealed, oh, the experiment worked. Whatever they did, this chaotic nonsense, whatever it was, it worked. And so now this guy is the obsession of Valentina, who wants to find a way to make this thing work. This is the lifeline that she needed to save this project that she was working on. Doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. We're gonna make this thing work. Birth of the Thunderbolts. So our team kind of escapes into the wilderness and Red Guardian drives up with his limo to save them. How is he able to find them in the middle of nowhere? Probably needed to have some little mechanism, they probably should have done some small little thing he put a tracker on Yelena or she had a beacon, something. The idea that there's literally people that chased them out of that base. Now, there was with Sentry landing, threw things off, but there's people literally chasing them and know the direction they went and what they are in. They couldn't find them. But Red Guardian just drives into a desert with very little information and just happens to pull up to them. Come on now. We probably should have put a little something there to explain how that was possible. But they get together and they start joking around. We'll be the Thunderbolts. Name that. And John Walker, having heard the story of her childhood, just throws it out there as a joke and kind of sticks around for the movie. And driving down the road, they end up being chased. And once again, the fun of Red Guardian, he's excited about everything. Like, everyone else thinks John Walker is a total loser. And he thinks John Walker is so cool. And goes, wow, you're like a magician. And he's very excited about all of them. And then Bucky pulls up and is like, Bucky? Man, Bucky's also the coolest because everyone's the coolest. But driving down the road, they're being chased. Yelena has to try and save the day with her pistol. A car blows up from her pistol. That's not how pistols work. So someone is behind them. And I think one of the funniest things about what they've always kind of done with Bucky is they kind of go back and forth between he's a guy that was born in like 1920, whatever the birth date was supposed to be for him, late teens or whatever. And so he's like a man out of time, but they also very frequently make him the coolest looking guy. And so Bucky, who's over 100 years old and who is a congressman, pulls up riding on a motorcycle with a leather jacket, shades, long hair, coolest, like designed to be the coolest looking guy. And I gotta love the fact that the in this movie, they know everyone here is a reject of failure except for Bucky. The movie knows he's the one guy, and the movie repeatedly treats him that way. That he pulls up, and instead of introducing him as an idiot or a screw up the way everyone else is, like John Walker comes off like a moron, and Taskmaster's just killed, and all Red Guardian's a goofball. Bucky, we're going to give him a super cool intro followed by everyone being like, yes, the Winter Soldiers come to save the day. And then he's out to get them too, captures them. And then through the course of the movie, because of his connection to Valentina's assistant, who's like, this is getting a little too nutty. Well, actually, we'll talk about Sentry and all that in just a second. But Bucky realizes he needs some people to help. And those are the people with him. Once again, one of the issues the MCU kind of runs into now is you've now introduced all of these characters across almost 20 years of MCU. A lot of them are still alive, always introducing new people. And Bucky knows everybody. Bucky's friends with everybody. And a really important point of reference here, Bucky's in the middle of nowhere. What, Oklahoma? He's over 1,000 miles away from New York City. Gets a phone call, you bring anybody you can. And he's got these people with him. So the fact that he takes them with him isn't the craziest thing. However, he could have called everybody else he knows too. Like, hey, Sam, meet me up in New York City. Hey, everybody that he knows that's not dead. Well, of course, not dead. They're probably, many of them are probably much closer to New York City than he is himself. Some of that little bit of, once again, logic of you just have to suspend that with these movies by now, that people aren't asking for help from obvious people to ask help from. Just even established in the timeline of Sam Wilson and Isaiah Bradley, two different Captain Americas that he has connections to recently. Maybe you should call them up and have this finale where we'd have 5 Captain Americas: Red Guardian, U.S. Agent, Bucky, Sam Wilson, the official current Captain America, and the forgotten Captain America, Isaiah Bradley. We could have 5 of them in this movie. But he doesn't. That's not how these movies work. But anyway, our Thunderbolts are formed, and our ragtag group has its leader, Bucky, who has something to offer these rejects. Then we have rushing to Sentry. We have this little bit in the middle here where Bob turns into Sentry and is manipulated by Valentina, who is taking advantage of his mental illness while also ignoring the fact that this means everything she's doing is incredibly stupid. Just blinded by the potential headlines, blinded by save the day, blinded by everything, ignores all warnings. She just sees the what she wants in front of her and ignores all the risk and danger involved in it. And I'd say like right here, it feels like maybe there was something cut. It feels like this, if ever there's a section of this movie where there's probably more and they just trimmed it just to make the movie flow better. You can imagine a scenario where right here, there was like 5, 10, maybe 15 more minutes taking us from Bob is laying in bed to Bob is in the costume with his hair dyed, knows all of his powers. There's like not a lot of screen time between these two things of his development as a character. So I imagine there's probably more kind of in this section right here, and they decided just to condense it so you have a movie that flows really quickly. But I feel like there is a pretty big leap here, both in Bob's characterization, his development, his growth in his knowledge of his powers, and they probably had something in here that established better maybe the void and all of that stuff, and they just went, we don't need this, and the movie's better if we just kind of move pretty quickly. Our human brains can piece it together. And that's what this feels like. They went, we just don't need any of this. Like, people can figure out, like, are we time condensing maybe in a way that's a little bit too much? Probably. But other than that, you don't need to see him dyeing his hair. You don't need to see, all right, he can move a glass, now he can fly. You don't need to see each of those things. We can hop over that, and anyone with a brain can follow what happened here. Then our heroes show up in New York City to confront Valentina, try and save Bob, and it's very clear they are no match for Sentry. And this is kind of one of the things that's kind of interesting about the film, that they chose a villain that does not match the heroes, which leads to a very interesting third act that's very different and trippy and surreal and weird, dreamlike. But there's also is this sense in my mind of, yeah, but you picked a villain that our heroes cannot do anything to him. That's kind of an odd choice. And maybe that's exactly kind of what makes it interesting, if you find a way to defeat the villain that is not in any way a classic third act. It just gets, very by the numbers in the third. I saw a couple people say that. I was like, really? Like, it's like a trippy, surrealist, let's go through his mind rather than a big CGI fight. It's kind of the opposite of what they normally do. But they are no match for him. They are not the heroes that we need to defeat Sentry or the Void or whatever. And they kind of call it quits for a little bit, as they have this realization, like, we're terrible. We are pointless. We're useless. And you have YELENA, who's desperately wanting to have a purpose and desperately wants to be the hero that her sister was, and just feels like she keeps failing at it. And she's alone. And up to this point in time in the movie, they've made it really clear that John Walker is a jerk that will say and do anything. And they still find a way to have YELENA say the meanest line in the entire movie. Like, you're a complete jerk that nobody likes, not even your own family. And you hear it and you're like, oh, man, YELENA, that was mean. Of course, they say it to the one person that you can say something that cruel to, and it's okay because he's been that big of a jerk the whole movie. But you're still like, oof, that's brutal. And so you have this like moment where the team breaks up, and leading to kind of the important moment between Red Guardian and YELENA of they have to like deal with the fact of like, why did Natasha's death not bring them together? Why did that not unite them? And so that's what, like, at the heart of the movie, where you just have something like as much like it's about a flying guy that can take people into trippy dream world. Very detached from reality, and people on super soldier serum and secret organizations. All of this is detached from maybe your lives. I do a lot of that stuff in my life. I deal with that stuff. But most normal people don't deal with flying guys that are all black and turn people into shadows. But the whole movie keeps pausing to have these moments that are just deeply human. That after tragedy, people don't know how to respond. And in their not knowing how to respond, they send the wrong message to people, and people misinterpret what other people want. And two people that both long to connect with each other drift apart just because communication is hard, and hurt people, and we all process grief differently. It drove them apart, and now they're coming back together. It's just so human. This is a very like that's what I say, it's character based. It pauses to process the past. And like what's just looking for to feel like YELENA has a future that's positive. Like all she does do is drink alcohol and regret her past and go on missions that she'll also regret in the future. Like her whole life is regret. And when you talk about character arcs and journeys, like what you want is to have a story and a journey that is the exact journey path that a character needs to go on. So you have someone that lives regretting the past, disconnected, all alone, and isn't proud of what they're doing. And you take them on a journey where they find people they can connect with, find the path to be that better version of themselves. So instead of looking backwards at regret, they look forward at the good they can do. That's what they do with YELENA. She's the face of that we dive into it in particular because there's a father figure, so there's more dynamics there. But by showing what's going on with her and hinting it's what's going on with U.S. Agent and John Walker, you can also apply that to them. Once again, John Walker, the most highly celebrated government agent, made Captain America for that reason, and now he lives with shame because he lost his temper in one moment. Like, how many actual super evil things did John Walker do? Watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was trying to work with Bucky and Sam. He was not the jerk until he killed somebody. And he was a war hero, a celebrated war hero. And now he's just known as a bad guy. And then he turned into a fixer for an evil lady. So he has regrets, but he went from the most celebrated hero to shamed fixer. So once again, it's a story that allows him to be on a path to become the hero again. Still a jerk, but he becoming a hero again. And one of my favorite sequences in the movie is when Void shows up, destruction of cities, things start raining down, and there's just a little montage of our Thunderbolts saving people. And I love that stuff. It's one of the things that a lot of comic book movies and TV shows kind of forget about. That when you get so lost in saving the world and the galaxy and these gigantic threats, but it's all at the gigantic level. We're saving everyone. We're forgetting to save one. And this movie remembered the power of saving one person. That you look over and a bus is about to hit someone that can't move. Or a rock's about to fall on someone. And you just do a montage. It's only like a couple minutes, just a few minutes here, showing each of our Thunderbolts running into action so that that person right there lives. And in the case of this movie, it's even more powerful because that's one of the themes of there. These rejects, these people that have deep regrets, are seen by the public saving people. Not people, a person, a family, a little girl. And when you talking about a movie that sets things up properly, like early on, Red Guardian's talking to YELENA, just like the joy and the glory, and he talks about this in a very prideful way. That's all about, what do I get out of this? And he's like, when you just save someone, and you really make a difference in a life, and he's got the ego side to it, but also there's when you're just right there saving someone. And then they show that at the end. And YELENA has her moment of I saved someone. I'm not a government. I'm not a hitman for an evil organization. I'm not a fixer for evil organization. I saved a normal person. It made the entire world to that person and their family and all their loved ones. I saved someone. I love that little sequence where it did that. And then also the way that it transitions out of that. Red Guardian the one that was the voice of the power of saving someone, and he saves a little girl, and you're just like, it's okay, little girl, and then turned into a shadow. The first theater I saw it with, they started laughing like they didn't know how to emotionally process the moment, or there was just some immaturity. But it was like, it's like meant to be this really like, whoa, no, that's right. There's a real threat here. Power stuff, like I think it was really well done. I guess for me, half my audience were laughing, so maybe it wasn't as well done as I thought if people are misinterpreting it. But I also you have the moment where the rock falls down, and it's John Walker, the biggest jerk of them all, is desperately trying to hold it up. This thought it was funny where then they have two non-super soldier women that are 100 pounds run up, start pushing on it as if this will make the huge difference. Like John Walker's kind of holding it on his barely, he's really struggling, and to total, not obviously top assassins, but top assassin is not the same thing as I can push up a big rock. They run up, they start pushing on it. And wait. And then two more super soldiers run up to like push it up. And I was like, with 3 super soldier men, I don't know how much non-super soldier YELENA was helping with holding up the rock at that particular moment in time. I just thought it was funny the way that, like, I get it, we want everybody to chip in, but maybe you could add something else for them to do that wasn't based off brute strength in a context where there's 3 people with extraordinary strength. One of them even has a robot arm. Then we have our surrealist third act, and this is the one that I, in particular, was very happy I got to watch the movie a second time to kind of like, all right, how do I feel about this? Because instead of having our Thunderbolts find a bigger gun to shoot SENTRY, to shoot Void, we go into this Void world and we do this kind of dreamlike thing where everyone is trapped in their worst moments of their life, their regrets. And it's meant to take the themes of the film and make them tangible. We are visualizing their regrets. We are putting them in that trauma that created this very broken and alone person. This is like I made a tweet saying the movie's overtly about mental health and depression and loneliness. And I had someone like, I'm sure it's not that. I'm sure it's not. Like, no. From the opening scene, that's what this movie's about. They talk about it all throughout the movie. And quite literally, they picked a villain that touches you and you see your biggest regret. The moment that broke you. And then the third act of the movie, we go into their biggest regrets and unpack them and fight it out. So the action of the movie and the theme of the movie intertwine very much kind of literally because the theme is now fully visualized. And it is the method by which we resolve our conflict. It's in this dreamlike world, the Void world or whatever. And when I saw it, I thought, like, that looks like the way they're visualized, it's cool. Like, even little choices where the rooms that they're in are actual rooms. And like when you first see it, like it feels kind of like a contained set. And then you run over and there's a wall inside of the dream world. Like you are boxed in to this horrible moment. You can't escape it, run over there. There's a wall that like is designed to look like a set and you have to crash through the wall to get out of it. And they're like using actual tactics from movie sets of like, there's a painting behind them that's normally out of focus. So it's not entirely obvious that it's not a real backdrop, or it's not entirely obvious that it is a backdrop behind them. It's not an actual open world. And it makes it so you can see the trickery, because the trickery of this dream world, it's very limited. I just thought the way it's visualized is really cool. And then watch the special features, like they did as much of it as practical as they could. And so we're doing the trippiest thing they could do, which would be the most obvious place to go CGI, so you could go really wild and crazy. But they didn't. And I think that makes all the difference of making it tangible. We're in this space that sometimes the rooms curl and we're falling between realities and stuff. But all of it is done in a way that anchors you. And I think you feel that watching the movie. Yeah, and like I said, on second viewing, like I was like, will this hold up? Like, will I feel like it lost me? No, I think it kind of goes back to what I enjoyed about all the rest of the film. It is more straightforward. It is more contained. And even that means our final battle, it's breaking through mental walls. And all those things that YELENA said, you smash it down and you push it away and you get rid of it. We're processing through it as the third act of our film. All that leading to the final resolution where we're in the brokenness of Bob, the two sides of him duking it out, fighting. And our final resolution is basically hug it out, bro, where Bob starts trying to beat down Void and just doing the literal version of what Yelena said. Like, what do? You just push it down and you just keep squashing it, push it down. And so he's beating down the darkness, the void inside of him, that emptiness. Never-ending story language here. Just trying to get rid of it. And in realize, like, to make the message of our film as clear as possible, you don't try and beat down, destroy the darkness inside of you. The literal darkness that comes from him. You need community to help you through it. And you just make like so overt what it's trying to say, what it's getting at, and finding a mechanism by which you can be extraordinarily on the nose of what you're trying to say with your movie and how you're having a theme that intertwines with your film. You literally have everyone run over, give him a hug. In a hug from the lonely guy, that's how you defeat it. Like, I think maybe there should have been something else on that. Maybe there was some other, make that a little bit, more extravagant than just hug it out, bro. And at the same time, if the whole point of it is, he was never really a villain. He was just he's a victim that was being exploited, and the worst sides of him were given unlimited power, and it needs to be restrained by community, and the best sides of him getting control. You find a way to tell that story. And that's where, like, it really feels like a movie because it's about something. And we didn't compromise the message of the film, the character arc, the journey, the exploration of loneliness, depression, community, purpose. We didn't compromise all of that in order to have a big CGI fight at the end. We literally just leaned as hard into that as you could and resolved the plot with a hug. In a Marvel movie. That's interesting. And it's where you saw some of the stuff where you market it as an A24 film, which is kind of funny. And most of the movie doesn't tie into that, but the third act kind of like, where you get why we're doing this A24 comparison here. Like, it's not an A24 movie by any stretch of the imagination. But those are the outside influences. And instead of it feeling like directed by committee, it feels like we did something interesting and unique here. So the movie was called Thunderbolts Asterix. What does the asterisk mean? That leads us to our final sequence where you think the movie ends pretty abruptly in some ways, and in other ways it like, what else did you need at the end? What more of an epilogue did you actually need at the end of this film? Like, and the movie does give us an epilogue with the post-credit, with the credits, mid-credit and post-credit. We do get the epilogue, but for the actual journey we're on, that was like the note to end on, that they're about to go arrest Valentina as our shady Thunderbolts. They've got a questionable past. They're not the most morally strong of our heroes. They follow her over here. Valentina always has a play. She's always got something that she's up to. Walks through, and all of a sudden they are on camera as she announces, "These are our new Avengers." And all of a sudden the losers become the Avengers. The nobodies become the Avengers. And through literally the shadiest person in the MCU, ta-da! You're the Avengers now, giving Yelena exactly what she wanted. And falling in line with Valentina's personality of always trying to exploit the moment. What's her angle? And there's a shot in it where in the middle of the save the day sequence, she looks out and she sees the public in awe of the Thunderbolts saving the day. And her demeanor towards them immediately changes. Her energy immediately changes as she sees, oh, I don't need the crazy SENTRY. I could use them. They even set it up. But I've been complaining, who are our Avengers? Who are our Avengers? What's taking so long? And, like you always kind of think, like, this moment isn't as impactful if it had happened at the end of Phase 4. So when you have like such a 6-year absence without Avengers and you do this moment, I think it pops and it cuts through a little bit better. Would the movie have been much more successful, feel like a more logical film and everything like that, had this movie been the end of Phase 4? Oh yeah, absolutely. It's so weird that these are characters that were introduced in 2021 and like they did all of this setup with these post-credit scenes for them being recruited and all this stuff, and then they didn't follow it up hardly at all for like 3 years. There was so little additional stuff on these characters for 3 years, 6 years without anything on Ghost. And you think, what if Thunderbolts had closed out Phase 4? Like, one big issue many of us have had with MCU is kind of a lack of direction, and it feels like just kind of scattershot. Like nothing's kind of pulling it together. Just, I don't know what to care about because we're just so all over the place. And there've been so many post-credit scenes that teased something that went nowhere, or they took way too long to go somewhere. Now, all of a sudden, these post-credit scenes from July 2021 have been paid off. Had this movie come out like we're doing Thunderbolts at the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, you do that, all of a sudden, all those post-credit scenes about these characters feel like, oh, this is like the, the corrupt version of what Nick Fury was doing in Phase 1. So it's like if you do all the post-credit scenes for Phase 1, but then you don't pay any of it off until the end of Phase 2, that would be weird. That's what they did. There were all of like the recruitment of these characters and stuff and like teasing whatever she was up to. All of that was beginning of Phase 4. That to me is so weird. Like, but the delay of letting us know who the Avengers are does give it a little bit more oomph to it, but very odd. But like even kind of what they're teasing about, there's 2 different Avengers teams. What if that had been Phase 5? Like Phase 5 is that there's 2 teams of heroes competing, and now we have a wedge between Sam and Bucky because the way that this plays out. The whole of Phase 5 that's very different. It's not Civil War level of like, because they were never a team, but they're competing and there's confusion. And so then that leads into the chaos of Phase 6 and then the multiverse saga or something like that. But I just like, there's so many odd choices in here of how when they did things, why they did them, this movie's tracking better than it had been a little bit ago. But I feel like had this movie come out at the end of Phase 4, there just would have been all this momentum because people in their minds would go, oh, Thunderbolts is our replacement Avengers film. Every phase ends with with an Avengers movie, and this is what it is. This is our team up movie about all and Valentina's recruiting them. Oh, I see now what we were doing. But all that momentum was lost because that stuff happened 4 years ago. Anyway, yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, very fun reveal and leading to you can see the mess that will be leading into our next Avengers film. Good mess. And going to our next Avengers film. Maybe it would have been better to explore it throughout a phase, as I just proposed. But I saw a report like a week ago after the fan screening, like, report says the plot of Doomsday will have 2 competing Avengers teams, one led by Bucky, one led by Sam, to try and stop Dr. Doom. I was like, okay, that's just not a report. That's someone that saw the fan screening and is trying to use, without spoiling Thunderbolts and the end of it, they're just using information they had. Like this is not a real report. This is very obvious you're inventing a report based off information you got from a movie you saw at a fan screening or reports you heard from someone that saw it at a fan screening. But yeah, I think this is the stuff that like gives me a target. I know what we're heading towards. I know what the dynamic looks like. I have an idea. Okay, there's 2 different Avengers teams. It's not the Thunderbolts and the Avengers or in Fantastic Four. It's like 2 different Avengers teams. One of them with a Z, one of them with an S. Fantastic Four and X-Men. Cool. All right. I'm getting the vision for it. I'm seeing where we're headed. Then we have our post-credit scenes and mid-credit scenes. So the mid-credit one, just a fun little bit. Feels very true to Red Guardian. Well, I guess the credits in general give kind of the epilogue, that the movie ends kind of pretty abruptly, but with a crescendo of like, oh, those are our Avengers now. And then the credits kind of play this out, where the credits are just as confused as the audience were about this movie of like, who? Why? Like one of the articles in the credits says like B-Vengers rather than A-Vengers. They had all the fun with it. And the parts of what the ridiculous magazine covers would look like to the actual think pieces on who these people are. And then we do Red Guardian with the Wheaties, paying off the joke that was all throughout the marketing and everything like that. Just fun. Just a fun little bit to do. Then, of course, the one at the end, a true epilogue. We jump forward over a year, and they are the established Avengers that have been doing avenging for a while now. And they're getting the reaction that you'd expect them to get from the public. That this is not our classic Avenger. This is not Steve Rogers. This is not Tony Stark. Who are these guys? And they're dealing with all the public about it. We've still got Taco Shield on U.S. Agent, but he's replaced his hat with an actual hat now. No mask. We got the actual beret hat instead. He likes his hats, but apparently doesn't like his mask. But just toying around with all this kind of different stuff and giving a real epilogue, showing what their dynamic is like, their new looks and everything like that. And then our final little tease, which was spoiled by the end credits in one of the craziest little, like, you couldn't find any way around this. If you were reading the credits, the final music credits says Fantastic Four. So like I'm watching the credits and I go, oh, well, I think I know what's about to happen in the post-credit scene. They spoiled the post-credit scene in the credits right beforehand. Like you couldn't like use a different music cue, or you couldn't like, you do the scene and then also featuring the Michael Giacchino's Fantastic Four theme, the new Avengers and Bob will return or whatever. You could have done that. You had to spoil it in the credits. Nobody went, come on, we're going to spoil it in the credits. Don't do this. But so there's something going on in space that they're trying to figure out, and then they go to check it out, and it's the Fantastic Four from a different galaxy. Which, once again, giving that target, we're teasing where things are headed. Like, it's right there. Okay. It's not Harry Styles shows up, which, like, what does that have to do with anything? The next movie we're getting is Fantastic Four. And we know they're going to be in Avengers. So you're showing me what's in front of me, where we're heading. And go, yes, that's what we've been waiting for. This is what a good post-credit scene is. Bunch of people, best post-credits, one of the best ones ever. It's amazing. It'll blow your mind. No, come on. That's exaggerating things. Because it's not like we didn't know Fantastic Four was coming. It's not like what they revealed was this gigantic, amazing thing. But we're so used to these just meaningless cameo post-credit scenes that aren't exciting, that for the first time since Phase 3, you get a post-credit scene that's like you end amped up for really what's next. That's what this was. That like you're actually like, I see where we're headed. Oh, we're doing like this is our first look at Fantastic. Oh, that's fun. And it has implications on the plot of why are they coming over? Will this be the start of Doomsday? What exactly am I looking at? Will this mean the post-credit scene or the end of Fantastic Four will be some? And your brain starts like trying to piece together all the information we have, the projects that are upcoming in the future, and that's exciting. If you were around during phases 1 through 3, every single year we got post-credit scenes that were exciting like that. You're like, yes, very cool. Man, I can't wait for the next episode of Marvel. Versus Harry Styles shows up. Wow, Harry Styles, One Direction. What does this mean, though? Where are we going? What is that? Huh? What? Wait, why did Harry Styles show up? And maybe we'll never see him again. It's just like a throwaway cameo stuff. Or even like Brave New World has Leader teasing this big threat in the future, but it's like, okay, but you didn't say anything. You didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. That's why this one feels like such a big deal. Because we're getting back to the way they used to feel. Where it seems like Kevin Feige has a vision and a plan and a path and a target, and therefore the post-credit scenes can aim you towards the target. And it's fun, and that's cool, and it's satisfying. So, in closing, as someone that has been very critical of the MCU for a while, this is a return to form. And I think I said this in my review, but like I felt that this was a Marvel movie where I could go, that was good. And I didn't need to say but. And it didn't need a gimmick. So like Shang-Chi, oh man, I loved this, and this. It was so cool. But the third act kind of feels like it leans into the MCU cliches, gets a little bit too jokey, and this character shows up that's the punchline. It keeps cutting to a joke character. It was good, but. Or, you know, No Way Home, Deadpool, Wolverine, great theatrical experiences. Very cool that we got this. They're great. Like, as a fan, it was like great experiences. But, like, on a story level, how does it tie into the MCU? Or, you know, the No Way Home is a great Spider-Man movie. Deadpool and Wolverine is a great celebration of the Fox X-Men universe. But they feel like Spider-Man, Fox X-Men, Deadpool movies, not MCU movies. This is an MCU movie that has great character work, that is funny, it's exciting, it explores things, it's familiar, but it does something new. It's just a good movie. No buts, no clarifiers required. Like, this is what I miss. Like, this is it. This is when they said they're course correcting, trying to get back on path. I watch this and I go, all right, this gives me really, like, hope that maybe we are getting back. They've course corrected. They've adjusted to return to whatever the processes were, whatever it was. Phase 3, phase 2, we're getting back there and we're tightening things up and we got to focus. I dig it. Join me down below in the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. Also, come back over the next few days. I got more Marvel content coming. Of course, some rankings, but also a video on the 1990 Captain America movie. I have seen a long-lost director's cut of it that nobody has seen, and I can't wait to talk about it because it's like a movie I grew up with, and I'm one of the handful of people on the earth that have seen this totally different cut of the movie, and I want to talk about that in a video. So be sure to come back for that, and maybe I can help be a part of getting enough traction so they actually officially release this totally different cut of the movie. And keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.